180. Whoa. Considered in finance, and pass things off to Councilman Kavanaugh and welcome down Elliot Wagner. Thank you.
Okay, RL 24-180 is an ordinance to amend the Binghamton City joint sewage budget to increase 3 electricity lines and decrease chemicals. I'm going to take a wild stab at this, Elliot, and say it's because electricity costs have gone up.
Because what?
Electricity costs have gone up.
Absolutely.
All right.
Also, we've pumped 500 million gallons more at this time this year than last year. And that equates out to 1 million kilowatt hours.
Is that because, is this more person generated or stormwater generated?
Stormwater, we've had 7.14 inches of rain last month. So that's about 4 inches over average.
Not compensated for by our,
Pardon me?
not compensated for by the fact we had a relatively dry winter? No, I guess
Just-
the answer, yeah.
For this 8 months of this year, it's pretty bad. We're about 7 inches over.
All right. And then I know we had some discussion of various chemical cost increases, but there's still enough room in the chemical budget to offset this
Yes.
and get through the year?
When we went out to bid, we were informed that there was probably going to be a increase in our ferric chemical. But unlike all the rest of the chemicals and the electricity, it remained flat. So we overcompensated there, but undercompensated with the electric line.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
No? All right. Thank you so much.
All right. And is this being expedited?
No,
No. Okay, but we'll,
thank you.
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming.
Next, we have RL 24-181, considered in Public Works and Parks, and we welcome down Ron Lake. I'll hand things over to Councilwoman Middleton, who's filling in for Councilman Dundon today.
Hello, Ron. This is RL 24-181, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Keystone Associates for CI and testing of Shenango River. Can you talk about that?
Sure. As you probably should know, the trail behind,
You gotta push the mic up just a little bit.
the trail behind the old Kmart Binghamton Plaza,
Mhm.
DEC is requiring us to redo it because they claim we settled it or whatever their claim is. But we're in the process of redoing that trail. And Tetra Tech was our original designer for this project, and we thought they were going to do the inspection for construction. However, they're so far away that it just wasn't economical for us to use them, and they said it would cost too much. And they had been working with Keystone. So Keystone was familiar with the project, and we need to get somebody on board relatively quick. So that's why I present Keystone for that project.
So can you explain what, did this not have to go out to RFP or something, or what's the contractual situation? I'm also filling in for Mr. Dundon, who I'm sure would be asking these questions.
As you can see on the RL, I gave the explanation for it was that Keystone had been working with Tetra Tech anyway. Tetra Tech was going to subcontract to Keystone, so they were familiar with it, and we're going to be ready to start in 2 weeks. And they also have on board all the testing that we need, so I can get both of those in one firm.
So does this, so the cost, was that originally wrapped up in the Tetra Tech price?
No, it wasn't, but they had a contract to do it. They hadn't give us the price yet. That's what I was in process of getting the price from them. I would have brought that to you, but they declined to want to do it.
So these pricings are just the fee schedule because it says for a total proposed, so that's just an estimate.
It's
Right
an
here.
estimate, it's an estimate on the hours of inspection. They'll only bill us for however long the project takes, but it's based on the length of time that was in the specifications.
So it could be more or less.
Well, hopefully it won't be more, but it could end up being less.
Okay,
I think the time in the specs was generous, so I'm hoping less.
okay.
And we have Gorick as a contractor, so he's usually pretty quick.
And does this need to be expedited?
It does.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to expedite RL 24-181.
I'll second.
Motioned by Councilwoman Middleton, seconded by Councilman Costi. Discussion on the expedition motion.
Um,
Anything?
It looks like, from what Ron was saying, they're starting it in 2 weeks, I guess. So we need to expedite it and then vote on it on Wednesday's business meeting. So that way,
We're
We
gonna
can-
have the pre-construction conference next week.
okay.
Okay, great. The clerk can call the roll on the expedition request.
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton, Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon is absent. Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great.
That is 5-0.
So this request for legislation will be expedited to be voted on at this Wednesday's business meeting.
Thank you.
Any further questions before we're done here? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have RL 24-182, considered in Public Works and Parks. We welcome down Acting Parks Commissioner Ballard, and I hand things off to Councilwoman Middleton.
This is RL 24-182. It's a resolution for the mayor to accept a grant from NSPHRP. Sorry, I probably did that wrong, for $50,000 for parks and city beautification. And can you guys just explain this grant?
Yep, so we were lucky enough to be chosen for this $50,000 grant for parks and beautification. So it will be used wisely because we know we can do that.
Yes.
So I just, it's a legislative initiative grant. Do you know which time the legislature, I mean, was there an application process or was this?
This was sponsored by Donald Lepardo.
So this was a Donald Lepardo
Yeah.
backed effort.
yeah.
Okay. And it seems like it's a very general thing. It says, park and city beautification. Do you have a particular set of priorities for this 50,000 or?
We don't really have anything set in stone yet, but I know we'll have to replace a lot of mowing equipment and whatnot and to maintain the parks and our facilities.
Maybe some trash cans in different places.
Trash cans, park benches.
Oh, that'd be great. Definitely. I don't
So
have.
it seems like
Oh,
it's
go ahead.
pretty much up to you as long as it's not construction, because construction ends up
Correct.
being a complicated thing
Correct.
for this. Okay. Okay, I mean.
I don't-
it's-
I don't have any. other
Thank you,
questions.
Donna Lupardo and the legislature. I
Yeah,
guess.
all good stuff.
Yes, all right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Does
All
anybody
right.
else have any
Although
other questions? Oh,
You're staying, right?
Yeah, you're.
okay.
Yes. The next one is RL 24-183, also considered in Public Works and Parks, and with our same presenters, and I'm handing things back to Councilwoman Middleton.
Okay, this is RL 24-183, an ordinance to amend the 2024 general fund budget to transfer funds for over budget items for the year end.
Yes, ma'am. As you know, we had a pretty hot summer, good year for the pools.
Yeah,
So we didn't have very many weather-related closures. So we did run over budget this year. So we need to transfer some money from our temporary services in the parks to our for our lifeguarding staff.
awesome. And I just had a quick question. So you're not gonna be able to tell by the weather. So like in next year's budget, would you prepare, would you extend this line more,
Absolutely. Jake and I and Shane have been working on a spreadsheet to kind of simplify everything and get the money where it belongs. I think we'll have a better handle on it in 2025.
I mean, you don't know exactly until it comes, but.
Right, when it comes down to weather.
You're literally rolling the dice on
Yeah,
Binghamton weather,
yes,
right?
you are. Yeah, you never know. You never know here.
We put into to increase the budget next year for our temporary services for beaches and pools for 2025, and hopefully that helps alleviate that. I don't think it was decreased by 20%, but we increased the budget
Right,
with because with the budget's expected for a 20% closure throughout the summer. So 20% of the summer we budget to be closed, and we did not close 20% this summer due to weather. So
Yeah, it was a hot one.
So the line we're drawing from, the park temporary services line, is there, I mean, what comes out of, I mean, obviously other park people, what comes out of there, and is there any risk of running over that line in the rest of the year?
these are our summer help laborers that help with the mowing crews and day-to-day operations in the parks garage.
So that's also winding down as we hit fall,
Yeah.
I'm just asking if the other line we're drawing from is gonna run over.
No. We over budgeted on that one.
Okay,
Okay.
so and you're trying to seek a rebalance?
Yes, we're
Yeah. Okay.
shuffling.
And does this need to be expedited? Or, cause I don't know if you guys need to fix this like right away, or how does that?
Payroll for that account has concluded, so we have to reimburse that account. So I'm not sure if it needs to be expedited, but it should be timely. But we have concluded expending out of that line. So this is the final overrun of that because pool is closed Labor Day. So we are, payroll just came out on Friday for that, their last paycheck for those seasonal employees.
I'd make a motion to expedite.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Hotchkiss, seconded by Councilwoman Middleton. Any discussion on motion to expedite? Okay, with that, the clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember
Aye.
Middleton. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon's absent. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky. Aye. Thank you. That is 5-0.
Thank you, guys.
Right. Any further discussion on this? Nope. Thank you so much. Oh.
One more.
Here we go. Next we have RL 24-184, considered in Public Works and Parks. Passing things over to Councilwoman Middleton.
This is RL 24-184, a resolution for the mayor to accept a grant from DASNY for $231,412 for the recreation pool upgrades. I guess that's from Kathy Hochul, the governor. I think they discussed that on the news already.
Yes,
It's going to Rec Park, right?
yes, for New York Swims.
And then I just had a question. When does that start? When are you guys gonna start? Like,
As soon as we accept the money.
Okay.
No, next year when the budget hits, because it's a 20% match, so we have to wait for the match to be able
Okay.
to join the account.
and it'll be ready, like it won't delay the pools or anything.
As of right now, we don't expect it to. As material sources, we try and source those. We just have to wait for January 1 to start purchasing. So there could be a run on stuff in the new year, but I don't foresee that. And as long as there's no other unforeseen things underneath the ground that we can't see right now, once we remove the deck to replace it, we're expecting to be open by Memorial Day.
Okay. And it's gonna be a new, what are they upgrading exactly?
We are removing the existing pool deck that is there. We're gonna reinstall something of the similar foot layout and then relocate admissions to somewhere else within the fence line. So all the existing fencing is staying where it's at. We're just gonna add a gate in off of the side to use the pool building that's currently there as a public facility for the restrooms. Similar, were you there during COVID?
No.
During COVID, we had because we couldn't use any indoor facilities, we had restrooms open from the pool side only.
Okay.
And parkside bathrooms were open as well. So we're gonna return to that to hopefully alleviate some admission controls for general park use and pool use. So we have people going to designated locations for designated reasons. And then, and then we're gonna fence in the kiddie pool that's there right now. So there'll be a perimeter fence around it to make it a little bit more safe for the kids.
So it'll be separate from the other.
It'll be within the facility. If you're at Rec Park now, you'll see that there's a iron barrier between the large pool and the small pool.
Mhm.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna take that small pool and fence that in further,
Nice.
so that parents and kiddos can stay within that.
I like that.
Something very similar to like what you see around splash pads now.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah, just keep kids contained a little bit more.
And parents can watch, like you have a better eye, because my daughter, Hadassah, our kids were there over the summer, but our daughters, they were going from the small pool to the big pool, and I'm like, wait, where are you? You know, so it's good, like you can honestly have some control over it, little control over that.
Yeah, that's hopefully our plan, is to alleviate some, or add in some necessary barriers without putting up visible barriers.
Yes, I understand.
And then we're gonna install drainage. If you've been to Rec Park also, you'll notice the mud that accumulates
Yes,
outside of
yeah,
it there.
yeah,
So we're
yeah.
gonna hopefully mitigate that issue.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for explaining all that. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, so, is the match in the proposed budget now? When this came through, it wasn't in there. It's the,
Yes, it is.
all right. So we've added in
Okay.
our necessary part. Do we have, are there any design documents of the department for these changes yet, or?
Yeah,
Nothing yet, like in terms of an actual design, just what I can do with pen and paper, some computer software, but I'm a works person, not a graphic, which I can share with you if you'd like.
Right. And then I mean, I saw your, this anticipation of replacing the children's pool with a splash pad, and I don't know how I feel about that, honestly.
That's not in this.
No, I know,
project. Yeah,
but you're prepping for that, and I don't know if,
well, our
I don't know.
small pool is also on its last leg, so we're kind of trying to plan ahead here, because we're thinking maybe 2 to 3 years left with that pool. We're gonna have to do something with it. So,
It might be cleaner than in
Yeah.
a kiddie pool.
As
No.
as staffing costs increase as well as materials and chemicals, if we need to replace the kiddie pool, not only for parts would that be expensive, but also staffing a lifeguard, we would need one less lifeguard every day to staff, and then as well as chlorine, we would use less chlorine
Mhm.
as we would with a pool with a splash pad, but that's just as time comes.
okay.
Are there any kiddie pools at other parks?
We keep taking them out and putting in splash pads.
Yeah.
just one.
Kidding.
Yeah, it was just
Just
Columbus.
one.
Kiddie pool is dangerous sometimes.
The one
You
that
know,
was
I
in
was
Col-
taught to swim by being thrown in the lake, and I really support that method of teaching how to swim. Anyway,
the kiddie pool that was in Columbus Park had some other issues as well with it, that again, it was forced to be replaced with a splash pad due to cost of replacement, but it was identical to what's at Fairview and MacArthur now. So it wasn't fully kiddie like what you see at Rec right now. It was identical in full layout that was at MacArthur and Fairview currently.
okay.
We'll just have to earn the big pool. That's okay.
Anyone
Work
else?
your way up.
All right, thank you so much. Next we have,
You want that
This actually did need to be expedited. We have to
That's
get
okay.
the documents back to DASNY by October 1st.
I'll make a motion to expedite
Second.
RL. The 24-184.
a motion by Councilman Middleton, was that seconded by
Second,
Councilman
yep.
Hotchkiss? Great. Any discussion on the expedition? Sounded like so you said it's due October 1st.
Yeah, just the signed document so they can get payment processing and rolling through.
Thank you. All right, clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon is also absent. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Director Burling is unable to be here tonight, so we're skipping RL 24-185. And we're moving on to RL 24-186, handing things over to Councilman Hotchkiss, Chair of Planning, and we welcome down our Deputy Mayor.
Excuse me, this is RL 24-186, an ordinance to amend the 2024 budget for demolition of a fire damaged property at 51 Robinson Street. We do about one of these every meeting, it seems like. at
Seems
this
like
point.
it, yeah. Yep, so this is another one to cover the cost of an emergency demo. The building at 51 Robinson Street was severely damaged in a fire this summer in late July. So the same with the other fire damaged properties. The city will place a lien on this property after this is complete, but this legislation will allow us to pay the contractor for the work in the meantime. And then we have a request for it to be expedited because you'll see on the bill to Gorick that is due the first week of October. Payment is due. So that's why we're requesting expedition.
Motion to expedite.
I'll second.
Motioned by Councilman Costi, seconded by Councilman Middleton. Any discussion on the request for expediting? Okay, clerk can call the roll on the motion to expedite.
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon's absent. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 5-0.
So our RL 24-186 will be on the agenda for Wednesday.
Thank
Any further questions?
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
Who owned that building? Do you know who owned it?
I do. Robert Baburka is the individual's name. And our understanding is that he's since passed. And had passed prior to the fire. The building had been vacant for a while. So it will probably be most likely dealing with the estate.
Okay. And are we just gonna leave it probably open, like just a lot for right now?
It's a lot right now and it's still privately held by the estate. So there's not too much that the city is able to do until if it eventually goes into foreclosure, if the estate sells it.
Thank you, Megan.
Sure.
Else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have RL 24-187, considered in Public Works and Parks. And we're gonna have Corporation Counsel as our speaker. And I'll hand things over to Councilman Middleton.
Oh, yeah, me again. This is RL 24-187, a resolution to allow the mayor to enter in a lease agreement with the Discovery Center.
Yes, so the city has an existing lease with the Discovery Center to put in the playground, the pirate ship playground that's planned. We need to amend that lease to add the basketball court area where the playground's going to be. None of the substantive pieces of the lease are going to change. It's just changing what they're actually leasing so they can put in the playground equipment.
Okay. Any other questions?
Self-explanatory.
Okay, Councilman Costi.
Motion to expedite.
Do we need it expedited?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay,
Yes, we
good.
do.
Okay.
Because
I'll
we
second
need to
it.
vote on this before we vote on the resurfacing to build the,
Okay, so I'll second.
okay. Motion by Councilman Costi, seconded by Councilwoman Middleton. Any discussion on the expedition? Does Corporation Counsel want to give any more background on why we need to expedite, just to make sure it's clear?
Yeah, I mean, we need to get the lease in place so we can do all the funding and stuff and get it going, so.
Thank you. Clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon's absent. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 5-0.
Thank you. So this will be on our Wednesday business meeting. Next, we have RL 24-188, considered in Public Works and Parks. And again, Corporation Counsel is our speaker, and I hand things over to Councilman Middleton.
Hey, this is RL 24-188, a resolution to approve the granting of an easement to NYSEG at 183 Water Street.
Yes, so this is for the new Water Street parking garage. NYSEG needs an easement to be able to install their equipment, to provide power to the facility as well as to maintain it. So that's all this is basically so they can go in, install their equipment, and we can power up the parking garage then.
Okay, and does this need to be expedited?
Yes, please.
Okay.
NICEAG has their equipment ready to go, so once we get this out to them, they can move forward with installing it.
Okay, and I'd like to make a motion to expedite RL 24-188.
I'll second.
Motioned by Councilwoman Middleton, seconded by Councilman Costi. Any discussion on the expedition? Clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon is absent. Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 5-0.
So really quick, so once this part is done, we're good to go to start with the parking ramp, or is there more steps?
So there's gonna be a little more work done before they can
Okay.
actually open it up, but this is sort of the big piece, because doing all the lights, elevators, any of the
course.
parking stuff, all that stuff is gonna require the electric to be run. And
Of course. And do you know when the project is slated to open for the parking ramp?
I know that at one point they were hoping to have it open by the end of the year.
Okay.
I don't know if that timeline has changed at all.
Okay.
But I know they're trying to get it open soon.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have one
Councilman Hopkins.
question. There's, in this letter, it says that there's some tree trimming or cutting that might be necessary. I can't picture where this is going based on the diagram. And then how that would affect trees.
So I think it might just be the form letter that they send out that
Okay.
has it in there. I'm not sure that there's any tree cutting that's gonna happen over there either. It's a lot of
It's-
concrete.
Yeah, it seems like that. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right, next we have a discussion with NICEAG. Come on down. And I'll hand things over to Councilwoman Middleton. Welcome.
Hello, guys. Welcome. Good, how are you? You have something for us?
Pass out ones on the side.
I have questions already. Why is my bill so high? No, I kidding. Not, it's not adding up at the end of the day. That's questions. Will my heat double? No, I kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, I know That's just Joe Russ, and I'm supposed to leave you. Did you give up mine?
I gave up two of them.
Oh, okay, we got a Steve.
Do you want to steal one?
Back.
Mine.
Hey, guys.
Do you want a second one? Because I have one.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
No, here, Bob, that's your.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming.
Absolutely.
I really want to love your company, but no, just kidding. Just try.
With a lot of good people working really hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for that.
yeah. Yeah, so first I'll introduce ourselves, right? So I'm Joe Russell, so I'm manager of government relations. How you doing? Good, thanks for inviting us.
Mhm.
And then
I'm Bob Roberts. My official title is Manager of Regional Operations on the electric side. What that means is the line department's mine.
Talk real close to the microphones.
Like this?
Yes, yes, yes. Sing us a song too. No, I kidding.
Okay.
testing, there we go. All right. All right, so first I'll start with this first time I've been here, right? So I'm assuming everybody's familiar with Avangrid, the holding company for NICEAG.
Mhm.
So I just mentioned that, and then the first slide is slide number 4, just an overview for Avangrid, right? So Avangrid on the renewable side is probably the third largest utility in the United States. We have under the umbrella of Avangrid, we have NICEAG, RG&E, Southern Connecticut Gas, Connecticut Natural Gas, Maine Natural Gas. There's United Illuminating, 8 pipes and wire companies altogether. Either they have just gas only or they're gas electric combination companies. And then again, a lot of renewables. So throughout the United States, again, third largest, mainly solar development. We have wind and solar, but a lot of both, I guess. And $41 billion of assets for Avangrid. It's a pretty large company. Slide 5 for NICEAG.
NYSEG's in all four corners of New York State. We're in 42 counties. We have about over 270,000 gas customers and over 900,000 electric customers. Again, another company that's close here in New York State is Rochester Gas and Electric. That's one of our other companies. It's a little overview of that. I did want to mention, so I don't know if you're familiar with our company has a volunteer program. And so, we do some philanthropy and we help a lot of 501c3 companies do some donations, sponsorships, but our foundation started a program about a year ago where they would get $15 for every hour that employees volunteer. So even if they're on their personal time, so if they're a volunteer in an organization, 501c3, they could submit, their hours that they volunteered, and then the foundation will pay money to that charity, which is great. But we have a lot of organizations that we've helped out so far. I want to mention that in 2023, just the Binghamton Division alone had 1,356 hours of volunteer time. So there's over, just under $20,000 that was donated to charities. And again, all comes from our foundation. So it's kind of a nice thing because in my department that I have a small budget for 501c3s, donations and stuff. It really helps at our foundation and gives some other financial support. And then we can help companies like, I'm sure you're familiar with Chow, right? A lot of food insecurity. And so it's nice to be able to help them out. We actually have 12 people volunteering this Friday at Vines. So we're going to be there helping out at the garden, which is great. And then the Pell Camp, I'm sure you're familiar with, right? So working with Matt Lewis, I believe, for that. And we've helped them with, we provide some mulch. And then also we had volunteers that we trimmed a lot of trees and did other maintenance before they started the summer program that they had about 2 weeks before the summer program started. So I thought I'd mention those things. Like a radio host. Thank you very much. I want to mention our AMI program. So I'm sure you're familiar with the smart meters. I've had a lot of people have a lot of questions over the years or so. So in 2023, September, we started in the Binghamton division. We're getting pretty close to being done in the Binghamton division for installing all the smart meters. Hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have that done. To give you some idea, for the Binghamton division, we've installed 105,944 out of 119,031 meters. So it's quite a bit installed already. And we have 51,657 on the gas side out of 66,773. For the gas ones, it's the meter itself isn't replaced. There's a module that goes on there, sends the signal. The electric side is a total meter replacement. So I think everybody's been doing a pretty good job. The good thing is that we've installed statewide, over 781,000 of them, and 734,000 already sending a signal. So they're communicating with us. They're working really well. We haven't had problems with any kind of communication. So far, everything's been working really well. So hopefully it keeps going that way. So I wanted to give an opinion. Your question?
Yeah, I guess the drive behind the smart meters is to have less estimates, like
quite a few things. Yeah, so a couple things. So one of the main things is storm response, right? So when the power goes out with the smart meters, we know immediately that the power's out. We really rely on people right now to call us. I mean, if you're on the same street, you could have a circuit feeding electricity to one side of the street and one to the other. If everybody doesn't call on that street, we don't always know exactly where all the power is out. With the meters, we'll know exactly where the power's out. But there's other things that are in there. There's the meters have alerts like voltage alerts. So if there's a voltage irregularity on the customer side of the meter or the NYSEG side of the meter, we get a signal, we get a warning. So that could help us with preventing an outage. We'll know to send a truck there and double check and see what's happening in the area to see if we can figure out what the cause is. It also has a temperature code that it sends us. So if the temperature gets over 150 degrees on the meter, we get a signal alert. That could be caused by a lot of things. It could just be a house fire. We'll get a code. We'll know that something's going on. We could send somebody there to take a look at it. The other one is like turn on, turn off. So our turn on, turn off policy is the same as it's always been. We go through certain protocols before we turn anybody's electricity off. But we do have a lot of colleges and stuff in our area. So there's certain times of the year where we get a lot of requests to turn power on or turn power off. With the electric meters, we could actually batch these. So we could pick like a couple of days a week where we get all the calls and we could actually automated turn power on to a location. So it's a lot quicker, more efficient for people. I get calls frequently sometimes from, we mentioned Donald Lepardo or other people where somebody's power was turned off for whatever reason. This helps us in different ways. We'll be able to expedite certain things, help people out, you know. We don't actually have to send somebody there to turn the power on or off. The gas meters though is still a manual. There's still a location on the meter where somebody has to go and turn it off. So that's not automated, but on the electric side it is. One thing I did want to mention, so the very next slide might be helpful for, and since you have these two, there's a URL. So if you went to NYSEG.com, and if you even just type in like smart meters, you'll come to a page that has all the information for the smart meters. There's helpful videos, there's fact sheets, pretty much anything somebody would want to know about smart meters. That information is on that website. But this URL, you could actually go in and type in your address, and then it'll tell you, it gives like a couple month range of when your meter is going to be installed if you haven't already had one installed. Because there are a couple of variables, right? Depending on the weather, it could slow things down, or the weather could be great, and maybe we'll get ahead of schedule a little bit. And that's why it gives kind of a range in there. But that's been a useful tool.
If I can
go ahead.
slow you down a little bit. Do you ever share any of your data with any outside organizations about
Like usage data?
usage, like broken out individually by like a customer, just to identify like these are like higher than you'd expect.
There is general information that's out there. I think we work with NYSERDA. It's on their website. I think all the utilities in New York State provide the same data, and it shows like carbon emission data, electric and gas side. That information's posted out there. We do, well, I think we're doing one for Broome County right now where they're actually doing a evaluation, like a study. And so there are forms that could be submitted for an organization as long as the customer signs off saying that they could share it, information when they're doing a study for them. We do those as well. The other information though is basically like what we've already shared with NYSERDA. That's generic stuff, but it's pretty helpful information. I mean, it goes in by town, so you can look at a certain town and see what the carbon emissions are. I think it's based on residential. I think it has some commercial information stuff there too. I may have shared that before, but I could always send an email with that link too, though. But that's good data. Is that kind of thing you're looking for? Or?
Yeah, I think if you're able to, I'm just thinking about you get all this real-time data probably about usage. You could be able to just be able to extrapolate like, I'm not like looking for like real-time.
No, but to your
stuff.
point, so one of the other features for the smart meters is an individual. So we have two programs that are tied to the smart meter. So as a customer, I can go into my account and I can actually look at my hourly usage every day. So if I got a new appliance or had something, or say I think my bill's a little higher, I'm not sure why, I could take a look and see when that started. So that information is available. So that's something that with the current analog meter, somebody's an older meter, that data is not available. We don't have that kind of data on the old meters, but with the new meters, like you suggested, they do provide a lot more information to each individual customer. We generally don't share the information specifically for customers unless somebody signs off on it and says it's okay to. But it does provide a lot more information to the customer, which is nice. So that'll be good. So especially when you get down to electrification, right? And people want to look at their electric usage a little closer. So you'll be able to really, dig into your usage if you wanted to. Some people like doing that, some people don't so much. Thank you. Good question. Anything else? No. All right. So I'm going to go to vegetation management. So we have a tree trimming policy, but on top of our normal tree trimming policy, we have a reclamation program. So we have, if you were to go to the next slide, 12, there are some areas that kind of look like the before picture, and then we're working towards to get them towards the after, right? So to minimize faults that may occur from branches hitting tree line, utility lines and stuff. So we're looking at the areas that were really affected and then kind of addressing those. So in Binghamton, we had the Burr Ave location, Morris Street location, and Noyes Island. Gives you some mileages. So for Burr Ave, there's almost 6 miles that we had done some trimming on. Morris Street was over 23 miles, and then 1.4 miles for Noyes Island. And then we have some regular cycle vegetation work that we do, about 7 miles of it so far. Those on Jarvis Street. Traditionally for the city of Binghamton, we've always kind of tried to do trim work, especially when it was residential homes and stuff, when the leaves have fallen, either before the leaves have started to go on the tree or after the leaves are off. I think homeowners really usually appreciate that a little more if we're not cutting those when the leaves are out on the trees. And so we've tried to accommodate that as much as we can. Any questions on that program or? So we're still looking into for, again, we're working our budgets too. So for 2025, once we get into January, we'll see what was approved and we'll be looking at other areas too that we need to do work on.
So the vegetation management is predominantly for protecting the power lines from falling trees?
Yeah, so one of the biggest causes for faults is trees hitting the electric lines. Sometimes even have just what's called like disturbances that might flicker a little bit. We have some automation equipment that we put on, reclosers, trip savers, different equipment that when a tree branch touches the line, the trip saver will recognize that. And if the tree branch goes back up, the power will continue, just have like a flicker at home. I think it does it, what, 3 times, Bob?
On some of them it will, yeah.
And some, yeah, up to 3 times. And then if you get like a flashing lights like 3 times at your house, it's going to go out at that point because then there's something that's on there. We need to send a crew to take a look at it. But trees, especially like there's a lot of ash trees that have fallen onto lines, both transmission lines. A lot of times they're outside of our right of way. You get really tall ash trees. And when they fall and they hit the transmission line, causes an outage. So yeah, the vegetation work's really important to minimize outages, so it helps a lot.
If you look at all of our outages over the last 5 or 6 years, 43% of them are caused by tree-related outages. These are limbs or trees falling into distribution or transmission lines like Joe was speaking of. So 43% is a lot. It's almost half.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's happening going forward is we're going into a cycle trim. Our rate case with the PSC was, for whatever reason, I don't know the real reasons, but the rate case never approved us going into a cycle trim. Many other utilities, all of the utilities, I would say, all are on a cycle trim, a 5-year cycle trim. We've finally gotten that into our rate case. So the numbers that you see now for our reliability metrics, the number of outages that we have is going to go down. It'll take us, a couple of years to get to that, but we are started a cycle trim on every 5 years. Every single one of our lines will be trimmed to the outside. If you look at the next number 13, Joe will talk to you about what the trimming box really is.
Yeah, so it kind of so that's the area that we trim to try to minimize any tree branches hitting the lines and stuff. So new easements that we have are up to 15 feet outside. The older easements are only 10 feet outside, and that's where the cross arms come out and 10 feet out on either side. And then when it gets beyond that, we're not allowed to go and do any trimming. And like I said, there's a lot of situations where there's trees that are much taller on the outside of our easements, and when they fall, that's when you get other outages. So then we deal with those. So, but I thought that trim box thing would be a good graphic. Your question at all for that, or okay?
Sure.
Mine's working very well.
They all were working very well. So I have historic concerns about nice eggs trimming program in the past. And I've often wondered about the kind of tolerances you're creating as you're cutting back. You have a 10-foot easement on either side, generally speaking, right?
They
generally speaking,
they vary, but we can call that an average, yeah.
Okay. And I'm wondering if there are cases where you, obviously, the further you trim back, the less often you have to come to trim back. Because the trees are not growing back that, as fast. In my district, in Kenya's district, I think Riverside Drive got hit extremely hard a number of years ago and ended up with trees that are ruined and generally a streetscape that has been ruined. And even trees, next time our arborist goes through, some trees that have been killed because the amount of growth that was taken off. And I'm curious if, I don't know, let's pick Pittsford, New York, for example. Beautiful Pittsford, New York, RG&E territory up there. Maybe those tolerances are smaller because
they'd be the same. So in your scenario, so I've walked the streets of Binghamton sometimes before we've done some vegetation trimming. In some cases, you have some older trees where they're actually growing into where the transmission lines or transformers are. And so we had to take more of the tree than we wanted to simply because the tree could catch on fire too, because it's right against the transformer. There's all sorts of scenarios where they're big, beautiful trees, but they're growing, they're right underneath where the power lines are. So they're growing up into them. So I think it goes back. I've been with NYSEG like 32 years, but I remember at one point where we did the trimming on Riverside Drive and there were leaves on the trees and stuff. And there was a lot of trimming that was done there. And we made some adjustments after that particular one. But I think that's one of the reasons why we try to do the trimming when the leaves are off the trees at that point. But generally our arborist will go through and he'll walk through some of those areas and look at the trees. And if we're able to make sure that we're able to minimize what's being cut on, or we will, but if there's a potential hazard for a fire or something else, then they end up cutting them. And it's unfortunate. There's some very big, beautiful trees that are really close to the power lines that are there. And in some cases, you really don't have a choice on, in some cases we remove the whole tree simply because by the time you trim it, there's not a lot of nice looking tree left. And so then you're better off removing the tree. And we talk to the homeowner before we do that too. I mean, we'll go and let them know what we're going to do before we take that tree down. But I understand where you're going with that. And we try to minimize it. And I know Corey, our arborist, does his best to minimize what we do when we do,
There's also, going back to the smart meter situation, during the rollout, which, again, in my neighborhood, tended to this year coincide with a lot of the student move-in. Folks were calling to turn electricity on in their name and were being told, oh, the smart meter will turn it on automatically, blah, blah, blah. And that was whatever, not the case. The smart meters were in, but that automatic turn on was not in place yet. And there was a disconnect between folks in the call centers handling those turn on and what was actually on the ground.
Right. So for that scenario, so wish I didn't have this in, and I don't have a slide for it, but so the network's called a mesh network. And so essentially when you go to install the meters, just because you had a meter put in your house, you can't automatically connect. Like you have to finish the network in that area. Once that network's completed, it could be that the rep then didn't realize what was completed or not completed at that point.
It was happening a lot.
Yeah. So it sounds like that's probably what it was. So again, that's easy for me just to let the call center on the media be careful when they're communicating that stuff. But the network, at that point then probably must not have been totally set up, so they weren't able to do it at that point. So I would hope by the end of this year, though, we're all set. And then for next year, we're in the springtime when students leave, then everything will be working correctly. So I understand that. Yeah.
It will be nice when it's working.
Yes.
And then my third thing, and I totally know this is not, or even mostly not on you folks, but since we have a utility sitting here, we've had, again, a lot in my district, a lot of new poles going up, a lot of taller poles going up.
Yep.
I think it's mostly due to the fiber optic companies.
Yes.
But we are in this nebulous situation with double poles all over the place and very slow to move all of those wires off. And
Yes. So the double woods.
I think most of it's not on you, but
Well, so
Can you give
just
them
so
sort
the
of a-
process, are you familiar with the process, how that works? So
somewhat.
say there's 3 utilities that are on that pole, right? So NYSEG generally is the first one that's on there. That pole's set. We move our wires up onto the new pole. Then what we do is we go into a program that's shared by the other communication companies as well. And we put in that we've cleared ours, and then it goes to the next utility. Then they have a certain number of days, I don't know if it's 30, 60 days to go and move theirs. Once theirs is done, it goes to the next utility. So it seems tedious. It takes a while to get through all the utilities until it gets to the last one. The last utility that's there, when they remove their communication lines over, that's when that pole comes out. We've been trying to work really hard. There's a woman, Laura Reed, that's in our department for those attachments. We've been trying to meet with the other utilities and go through what's on those programs to move some of these along. But there's been, like, Bob, you had an idea, like how many polls that were done this year? There's a lot of polls.
Somewhere around 12,000 poles.
Yeah.
In the Binghamton district itself.
Yeah. So they're trying to keep up with that, but that's a lot of poles being installed to help with the communication lines and stuff. So taller poles, and part of the taller pole, in case you get that question too, is that again, we're adding some automation. There's certain clearances you have to have for each one of the utilities, and the poles are a little taller because you have to add that automation on there other equipment and make sure everybody has a safe tolerance zone to work in. Right. So,
Yeah, a pole, the top half of the pole belongs to NICEAG for the most part. Your highest voltages are on the top of the pole. You'll see a transformer on that pole. Your secondary voltages are just under the transformer itself. There's supposed to be another 40 inches or so before you get to the telecom space on the pole. Cable, you've got telephone, you've got fiber optic on there. 3 different companies. The thing that we've been running into is one of those utilities seems hesitant to pull poles. They seem hesitant to get out there.
Oh, do you want to
take it
name
over.
a name? We'll send an angry letter.
no,
Or I will as a council person at least. I'm serious. I
Yeah.
mean, because we're not talking 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. We're talking 30 days, 6 months.
I've seen them out there for years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen poles for years. It wouldn't be Spectrum, but it might be spelled very similar to that. But anyway, there are cases where, you know, if the pole is there for a couple of years, we might go and just chunk the pole, tie the other facilities onto the pole and remove the pole itself. We've done that for, you know, some of the towns get together and say, come on, can we get this street done at least? You know, but I can help in that a little bit, yes. I'd like to follow the engines, the national joint use
Right. That's the
notification
program that we
process.
use, engines.
But at times that seems to be less than useful.
Do you have is that able to generate like an aging report for you, if you will? Like pole was placed this date and it's 18 months later and it's still, you know.
It's going to be in the system. It may not be in my desk. Our work is already done on it, right?
Right.
We've taken the pole, we cut the pole off above the communications. We let the other companies know that that pole is ready for transfer. Hopefully they get out there and do it. It's a real problem.
In the last, was it like 3 years? So there's been more poles replaced, I think, than I could think of in the last like 3 years or so. I mean, there's been a lot of pole replacements. So
More than in my life, I think.
same here. Like you said, I've been with
Yeah.
NICE like 32 years, and this is the last 3 years is probably more than I've ever seen. So
I mean,
yeah,
there's pluses to it, right? We've got big.
Well, I don't
poles
disagree.
out
There's
there,
pluses to it. It's good and
but
I,
the
yeah.
viewscape is what it is now. There's a lot of
Yeah.
double wood out there, no doubt about it.
So with a lot of, you know, gravel around them and without the sidewalks being, you know, permanently fixed and stuff, and that's more water underneath anyhow. That's stuff. Anyway.
So
Thank you that's the best response I've gotten so far though.
Oh, that's-
There is a process and people are lagging in the process. That's mostly not you guys. Or really never you guys, right? Because you place the poles first and you're the first ones on.
It's,
we
you know,
generally move
our-
ours first, but we do this. So anyway, so we have this third party attachment department. There's people that manage this. So they work with contracts with people when they're putting the attachments on and stuff too. So they do try really hard to see how long other people have been on there and try to move people along. And I know that I've been with her when she's had meetings with some of the other utilities, asking that does somebody move up or if they have some dates that they're to try to move things forward. So it's a common thing all over the state that we have right now. So we keep having these conversations, trying to get the poles taken care of as quick as we can. But again, it's just been so many that I think it's been the challenge that there's so many poles at one time that's been set.
So I think when you're looking at the telecom companies, especially the
Yeah.
telephone companies, they've all gone wireless, right? There's very few landlines left out there. So there's very few phone lines left out there. They tend to be,
Yeah.
you know, they tend to push that stuff off a bit because their main profit center now is wireless, not wired.
So we have reliability projects. We have some underground and stuff, obviously, in the city. You want to talk about that, Bob?
Sure, I'll
All
go
right.
into that. In the downtown area, this area included, we've got what we call an underground network. All the distribution lines are underground. It's an aging system. It was built a long time ago, before I was alive, probably in the 40s and 50s. A lot of that is starting to we're starting to put some capital money into that for replacements, upgrades, transformers, network protectors, new cable. You can see some of the circuits here that we've looked at just in the last year or so. This is at least half of, you know, what is out there has been replaced this year and last year, and it will continue to replace. We had some issues in the past with City Hall with a transformer here that went bad, and you know the problem is when these things are all interconnectable, but when the system is aging and there's parts of it that are broken, that the interconnectability is lost. or can be, not as redundant as it should be. So those are some of the things that we've looked at this year and last year, is changing out these old protectors, these old transformers, redoing the lines, reconducting the entire thing, just setting up a much more resilient network here in the city itself.
So is
in
this
addition-
done as like in conjunction with like street repairs or like?
When we
is it-
can, sometimes there's emergencies that have to, there are emergency outages we have to take at times, but generally we don't have to tear up the street. We can get into the manholes that are there. If there is a time when there's a street that's being completely torn up, like 17 just was, that would be a great time to take a look at some of these things for sure. Yeah. But we don't need the street to be even closed down for more than an hour or so to get in there and get out of there. Working in conjunction with one of our partners, Matco, they do quite a bit of work for us. They're solid electricians. They've done some of this work for us and with us in conjunction with the team that does this, the underground team. We talk about a duct bank in here. A duct bank is really just a system of carrying the wires from one area to another. Some people ask about what a duct bank is. A duct bank is really just, it's a conduit with more conduits inside of it. So those are some of the things we've done in the city. There's also a project in the works, probably a couple of years out still, that's going to move two substations, the Gowdy substation over in Johnson City on the other side of the river. That's going to be moving on this side of the river. We're going to get that out of the flood zone. It's not the city necessarily, but it's pretty close. There's some circuits that come out of there that do come up to the city. The other one is the Noise Island substation. You guys are familiar with where Noise Island is. That substation is going to get rebuilt, staying in the same footprint. It's going to get a bigger footprint, but it's going to stay in the same general area. There's going to be some upgrades to the transformers, some bank work that's going on there. And some of the circuits will be retooled from the substation to where they go underground. Most of the underground network comes from the Noise Island substation. So that's in the works. Again, those are projects that are a couple of years out still, but the capital money has been seeded for it. We're starting to work on a process to get contractors in to start looking at that stuff.
How active is Noise Island still as like a work hub for you folks?
So the only thing that we have going on in Noise Island, other than the substation itself and that control house there, is we've got our corporate construction department that's there. Those are driver operators for the most part, the people that with CDLA licenses that move the equipment. We've got a lot of equipment over there, specialized equipment for off-road work, big track machines, big track diggers and bucket trucks. We've got portable substations. We've got a lot of different big equipment over there, and we're going to keep it there because it's a pretty good sized footprint. I think we've got 16 or 17 acres over there, and you need it for all the stuff that's out there. I'm trying to, they do fall under my purview, so I am attempting to up the manpower there because I've only had 2 people there for several years. I'm trying to get it up to 5 people at this point, going through some bid processes now with jobs. So it should get more lively than it is now. The 2 guys that are working there now, they've threatened to quit if I don't give them some more help. So I am actively looking for more driver operators to work there. I'm looking at 5 and maybe a clerk over there also. It is still a busy place. It's just not a lot of people there anymore.
So,
Sorry to jump back
Yeah.
to the tree topic.
Oh, yeah.
When are they supposed to call you, right? So like if it's connected to their house, they're responsible to call to get the tree taken down, but if it's just a pole that's connected to more poles, then it's.
so when they want,
Like,
so if you have,
my district has a lot of trees.
yeah, so if they have their triplex, so their power that's coming from the pole to their house
Mhm.
for that part. So, that one, they're probably gonna call their own arborist, right, for
yeah,
that one, but
It's a case by case
Yeah.
basis. If the pole is on top, we'll call that a secondary wire. That's
Yeah.
kind of what we refer to it as. It's a secondary voltage, 12240 that goes into your house. If the pole is on it and leaning heavily on it, we'll come out and take
Yeah.
care of it. But generally, that is a customer concern because all the secondary wires are all insulated. If they trip, it's only going to trip out the transformer. Bless you. It's only going to trip the transformer that's there. So we consider those to be privately owned, not privately owned. It's still ours.
yeah.
But the easement itself is not really there. So the trees that are on and near a secondary wire is generally going to be a customer owned. There are, you know, like I said, they're case by case basis. We will take care of stuff like that, but it's got to be kind of a hazard to the public at that
Yeah,
point.
you don't want anybody climbing the tree to go and cut next to a line anywhere. So it's always good to call. And then, like I said, we have a forester right on site in Vestal. He'll usually just drives over and he'll take a look and see. Then they'll just talk to the customer and let them know.
What about if it's like a neighbor's property? So, last summer when I was walking around, I was on Felters Road, and the neighbors of a property, no, there's no house on that property. It's just trees. Actually went and picked up and showed me half burnt pieces of wood that they
See,
said
those
were
are-
smoking on the line.
Right.
But
Those are cases where, yeah, we'll come out and help
Oh,
out.
yeah.
yeah,
absolutely.
and they didn't know who the owner was of the
That's still
property.
okay. If they had the location, the address, I could just call the 1-800-572-1111 and they'll just get a customer service rep. They could tell the address and then we could have somebody come take a look at it. Doesn't have to be their property.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. That's a good question.
I'm waiting for the big finish where you offer us a 10% discount on the
I'll
city
give you the-
streets, on the city street lighting system
Yeah.
here.
I'll
at
give you the
least.
same discount I get.
All right.
So I had asked like if there were topics that you might want to hear about too. So the street voltage, like it's called a lot of things. The survey was one, but retest facilities, that was something that was maybe you might want to hear about it. So first thing I did is there's a case number. So back in January 5th, 2005, it was, there's a PSC case number 04M0159. If you were to go to Google that case number, it'll actually take you to the PSC site and you can actually see the documentation that NICEAG sends in. So I believe we deal with the PSC like quarterly and reports when we're doing these surveys. And then we have a yearly report. There'll be one that'll be coming out towards the end of December for the year. So we're required to, the way the process works is I think we do 20% of our service areas like over the course of 5 years. So at 5 years, it's 100% of the area. And we do voltage surveys on publicly accessible underground facilities, all company, non-company owned, metallic street light and traffic lights. So even so with the city of Binghamton, they bought the street lights that are here. We still do voltage testing on the city street lights and stuff. NICEAG's overhead transmission distribution facilities, we check that out. Underground residential distribution facilities, capable of conducting electricity, we'll test those, voltage testing. And then per the order, I believe there's categories 1 through 4. NICEAG immediately safeguards and or mitigates all voltage findings based on what we see. I was talking to the gentleman that manages this for us, and he was telling me that even, as we finish things quarterly, we send reports into the Public Service Commission. They'll audit too. They'll say, hey, we did finish something. They'll go back through and they'll audit stuff that we did too, just to validate. So, take this very seriously. And we have people that are doing this testing every day, trying to make sure that everything's okay. And I think we've actually done pretty good. Now there's full, I don't know if it's 12 pages or more report that you could actually read. It's available on the website with that case number if you're more interested in reading more about that.
Sure,
But
it's very interesting.
it's very interesting reading. There's some good, it depends how much in the weeds you want to go there, but it has some good data that's in there. But it's a good program and it's good to do it, right? And that's all that I had. So if there are other questions or anything else you might have for us.
Councilman Hotchkiss?
I must say
Yeah.
I'm very excited about the watershed. I've been in the beginning when the city was talking with us. I was in a lot of meetings about the water street. And we talked about like the rental property that might be like a air lease and stuff. There'll be apartments up there. And then so I'm excited to see that it was being built. And I've been working with our field planner a lot to make sure we have the transformers. So she'll be very excited to see that the easement's done and things keep moving forward. So I frequent Boscos. I'll be at my park there. So that'd be nice. So yeah.
Make sure we get those trees out of there too.
Yeah. There shouldn't be any trees. I don't think there are. You never know.
Excellent.
Yeah.
My understanding is, I think the state approved a rate increase for you guys recently within the last couple of years.
Yeah, so it was just last year, I believe, is when it took place. So it was a 3-year rate case.
Okay.
Essentially, I think there are all sorts of percentages that were in there, and essentially it came down to, I think, about $10 per month per like the residential household is what it really broke down to. Because there were a lot of different calculations that were in there, and I think easier at the end of 3 years, you're talking about $30 more a month for like a residential customer. It was, I think, easier to communicate that than there were all these percentages that were being thrown out there, but it's percentages of just the delivery portion of it, not the supply portion. And so I think sometimes it was confusing to customers. It was easier to go with it. It's it's being $10 per year.
Yeah, I'm
that-
seeing some wild numbers on social media, 65, 70%
Yeah.
increases in rates. It's like, I didn't know where they
But-
come up with that stuff from.
Yeah.
What did you say, per year, per month?
Per year. So it was a 3-year rate case. That means over the course of 3 years, it's $30 more per month.
Yeah, the monthly increase
On
is
average.
$10 a month, more or
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. Things offset, it depends. So again, I'm not, I happen to have natural gas in my house for heating, but I put in a new boiler, last October. My bill actually dropped $30 per month because I went from like 65% efficient to 85% efficient. So there's certain things if people, you insulate your house, you maintain your, furnace and stuff, there's ways to mitigate some of the additional costs. You save money in some cases because everything's working properly. And it's hard for everybody to do, but if you're able to do those things, then that does cut down on the cost.
Nice. It
Would
gives
you,
kickback on
would
that,
you,
too.
would you ever be open to like having a discussion with people who may be struggling on their NICEAG bill? Because I do hear that from
Yeah.
a lot of constituents, especially elderly constituents. They are struggling, even like, it seems like a $30, but to someone, it's simple to like,
Yep.
other people, but to someone who's on a fixed budget, that $30 is really,
Yeah. No, it's so we have programs to help people. We'll do budgets for people. If people have a hard time paying their bill, we really want them to call us, let us know. Our reps will work with them. We can put them on a payment program. We also have customer advocates. So we have this woman, Jackie, that works there. That's great. And that's what she does. She works with, we go to, I think Leah Webb had an open house at the library last year that we were at. So we were with some other agencies.
Mhm.
We had like 3 reps that were there, sat down with anybody that came in. That worked out great because there were a lot of agencies in one spot. So it wasn't just NICEAG, but there was, Office of the Aging. There's a whole bunch of organizations that were there. But then our reps could actually help. And Jackie really knows everything. She's the customer advocate for this area, but she's really good at working with people, to help find ways to help pay for
Definitely have
things.
to start with that phone call.
Yeah, it's good to start with a phone
Don't
call.
let them hide. I mean, if they're having problems, then there's things we can do. So they gotta start with a phone call.
Yeah, there's definitely programs. There's a lot of people that we put in the payment program stuff to help them and really brings the cost down. There's a certain month they pay every month. So we'll do whatever we can to help people. It's hard for everybody right now with that. And, a lot of people that can't afford their electric bill, a lot of bills. So yeah, I'd be happy to help them. Yeah. Again, I thought that when, like I said, when Leah had set up that, the one with all the agencies, that was a great opportunity. We've done those with her and I think Anna Callis and like Cortland, other areas too, where we got together with other agencies and were able to work with as many people as we could in one location. That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Councilwoman Middleton was saying. That's come up a lot, that people are already like really concerned with being able to pay their NICEAG bill. They obviously want to keep their lights on and keep the heat on. So that's kind of where was trying to go with the data sharing aspect. If there is ways to identify and do like proactive, like, hey, you're paying 50% more than the average single family home that's your size and your age. Is there any type of like, and then that goes to, I don't know if it's a separate organization or a separate department that would be like, there's either you're doing something weird with your appliances that are really old and inefficient, or your house hasn't been insulated ever, something like that.
Yeah.
I think
Like our water department does something like that.
Yeah, and even like Office of the Aging had there's energy audit. There was a gentleman I talked to at one of these meetings that we were at, and actually they do go to people's homes too to look at other things that could save money. But that's one of the first questions our reps are going to ask too. So if they talk with somebody, they're going to ask, what do you have? Space heaters are a huge user of electricity. So there's a lot of space heaters that are there. They're also the number one cause of a fire too. So they're, space heaters could be kind of dangerous. So, but they're a big energy user. So they're going to ask some of those questions too to see what you're using and see if there's a way to cut down on some of those costs.
But right now, if someone had an issue, like, you call Jackie, the customer advocate? and-
Yeah, if they're calling, they want to speak with a customer advocate,
Okay.
they'll send that information to Jackie in Sycus, and she'll actually get the information and she'll talk with them. Her name, she works again with all the local agencies that usually work with a lot of people that have difficulty with all sorts of things, and she partners with them, goes to a lot of meetings, community meetings to meet people to try to show support and help them if they have questions. But yeah, their concern will go to Jackie and she could work with them to do what they can. And again, the reps themselves will be able to help with, if there's a payment program or something, they could do that themselves too, to help lower the cost for somebody so they can make it more manageable. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just a quick question. I know
Yeah.
you're talking about residential increases. We're going through the budget season right now, and
Yeah.
we've had certain departments asking for a 35%. We're saying there's gonna be a 35% increase in, gas and electric compared to this, or next year compared to this year.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what's driving that.
30%. Well, I guess so. There's a couple of factors they're looking into, right? So the rate increase that we had was the delivery portion, right? And then there's the supply portion. I haven't recently looked to see what the projections are for supply. We passed that cost on. So if there's supply cost, whatever it is, X, we just bill that to the customer. We don't mark it up in any way. So I'm assuming, and I would imagine what they're looking at for budgeting is they're going to look at the delivery and supply, and they could be looking at some of the supply portions too, to see what that's going to be in addition to what our rate increase was for the supply, for the delivery portion. Does that make sense? So they're looking at both things. I just haven't had a chance to look and see what the projections are right now for like the commodities and stuff for like this winter. Usually when we're getting there like October, early November, there'll be some projections so people have a feel for what costs might be for, winter time. So we're getting closer, but yeah. We're just thinking about like our budgets generally, like August, we look at budget numbers and stuff, but some of those things I don't see projections on until another month or so. Sure. Yeah. But
I'm curious what kinds of information you provide other city or town leadership. Like, is there certain data sets that people ask for, or certain types of information that we haven't asked for that others have?
Yeah. No, because City of Binghamton, I think I've worked with might be your city planner that had to do with they're looking at like emission usage and stuff. So I'm pretty sure I provided those links there. That's a pretty common one they had with other municipalities. And then things we talked about like double wood. I think a lot of the topics we covered are similar topics to what everybody else has asked about. That's kind of why some of the things we put in here are things I felt like they're generally questions that other municipalities might ask and stuff, but it's funny, there's so many things in the city that I remember working like in Charles Street, like there, for us, I don't know if people think of it that way, but so nice, like we get hundreds and hundreds of requests in all the time. There's like almost think it's like electricians. People call in and they say, I need a new service. I'm building a new house, or there's a developer going into the old cogen right on Charles Street. And so we had to decommission the gas line that was there, run a new service, run some electric, do stuff. So those are other projects we're doing around the city constantly, because we constantly get in new requests every day. When the reps call, we get hundreds of different requests, and that's what Bob does. So they manage all these different things that come in, and it's always a first come, first serve the way we get them. And we just prioritize by that. Everything's assigned a job number, and that's how we track things. So that's the one discussion I have sometimes with municipalities, I guess, is because they do get to know you, but they'll like the concern, like if there's wires on a pole, right, that we need to look at. That's why it's really good that they call in, call the rep, right, the 1-800-572-111, because then a job ticket's created and then it goes to the correct department, and that way we're able to track it. So that way down the road, if you said, hey, I've got this job number, what's the status? We're able to locate it. If we do it on the side or we bypass the procedures for tracking, it's hard to know what's gotten done or not done. So even when there's like storm events, our first priority for a storm event is make safe, right? So we want to make sure the streets are clear, make sure there's no tree issues and stuff that we need to address. And then when we get into other outage stuff, we always have a ticket created for all those too, because we get so many calls coming in that's what we tell if they're duplicates, or if we still need to do something, we create a a job ticket for it. So it's just good to know that procedure, I guess. And that's why, we kind of stick with that all the time, just so we can make sure things are getting done right and timely. So that's the,
Thank you.
all right.
Anyone else? With that, thank you so much.
All right.
And I'll.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Middleton,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Costi.